All right. We're back. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael. I am the host here. Appreciate you folks that are riding along with us this morning out on our website. I can see a bunch of you out there. See you guys up in Chicago and Lincoln, Branson, out there in Clarksville, Baton Rouge. See you out there in Seattle. I see you out there in Maine. Glad to have you. You know, what's going on with the issues here of Ted Cruz is kind of interesting. Lately, the GOP has completely and utterly missed the boat. The Tea Party is furious that the people that they put into office in 2010, when they literally saved the bacon of the Tea Party, or of the Republican Party, excuse me, they saved the bacon of the Republican Party. There's no denying it, folks. They were in a complete and utter rout. And the Tea Party went up there and on the flank knocked back the enemy enough for the House to regain its footing. Now, many of those who went in there under the auspices of constitutional leadership and a return to constitutional government have completely and utterly betrayed their constituencies back home and fallen prey to the corruption that is inside of the of the administration and Congress. You see, the real problem here is that when we're talking about this level of corruption, there is almost nothing that is sacred. The Tea Party is actually stating that Boehner has declared war on us. And he has. He is trashing those constitutional conservatives. They routinely throw guys like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee under the bus. And yet, the poll out from Rasmussen says, whom do you consider the most influential person in 2013? I'm going to read you the answers. Pope Francis got about 22% of the vote. Barack Obama got about 20%. Some other person got 12%. Nobody really, it's just an unnamed person. And the fourth person, or actually the third person in line as an individual, is Ted Cruz. You know why? By the way, the others were none. And then below that was Edward Snowden. So, and below that was Vladimir Putin. Then came Boehner, Chris Christie, Miley Cyrus, give me a break, Kate Middleton, okay, Angela Merkel, Malala Yousafzai, and Kathleen Sebelius. Kathleen Sebelius may be on the list as one of the most influential people, but that is a nefarious designation for her. But here's the real issue. The Republican Party is unwilling to admit, because their failing is that they cannot go back on what has been committed to by them, by their handlers. Rather than adhere to his oath, and I'm speaking specifically about John Boehner here, but you can remove Boehner's name and substitute John McCain. You can put in anybody that you want in that group, because there's probably there's less than you can count on one hand of true faithful conservatives in both the House and the Senate. Out of 535 members, we'd be hard-pressed to find 5 worthy of salvage. And that's the truth. Rather than adhere to their oaths and their principles and reflect the integrity and the honor that they're, as an elected representative, they will turn on those who elected them and trusted them. Why, you ask? I mean, what is with these people? Well, I'll tell you why. Their corporate masters are calling in their loans. They're making a margin call. And they're saying, look, you accepted our money and you made a commitment and a promise to us. And you sold out your principles a long time ago. So we don't want to hear anything more about how you need to do the right thing. Because you sold yourself to us a long time ago. You made a deal with the devil. And now the due has come. You see, the truth is, they would rather align themselves with betrayal and tyranny, because the price of adherence to their rightful duty as your elected representative, truly doing the work in the best interest of the nation, would result in their dismissal. They would lose their power. They would lose their influence. They would lose their money. They would lose their privilege. Privilege that lets them live like kings and queens in any nation on earth. Mark my words, the lifestyle that your representatives lead, both Democrat and Republican, is on a par with anything that you would see in terms of decadence and opulence in almost any nation in the world. You know, people think, wow, the King of Norway, he must live really well. Let me tell you something. Your U.S. Senator lives as well or better than the King of Norway. You know why? Because they wield more power than the King of Norway. They have more black money. They have more PAC money. They say they have these monies funneled into their PAC funds that are exempt from campaign election law, and they live on it. They're out there buying sharkskin suits on this money. They're flying around in first class. They're treated to caviar and the best wining and dining. They walk into a restaurant and they have the best seat at the table. These are men who are far away from their families for most of their year. And they're introduced to the finest looking women who make a midnight visit to their home or their vacation spot in Washington. Let me tell you something. They have absolutely no care or concern for you, because they're making sure that their bread is buttered irrespective of what you're looking for. You know, Pelosi came out the other day and said, Boehner told me to wait until next year for immigration reform. And I've no doubt that perhaps for the first time in her life, this sea hag of the heart of darkness is actually telling the truth. The adage that there is no honor among thieves is not only prevalent here, it's exemplified. They cut their deals in back rooms, in secret negotiations, basically selling us out and violating their sworn oath to protect and defend this nation, not only from all enemies domestic or all enemies foreign, but those domestic, including the greatest enemy of the American people right now, the government in Washington, D.C., of which they are a part. And they have absolutely no problem leading us as a nation down the path of destruction as long as they get theirs. You see, that's the problem with America. That's the pervasive attitude is, I got to get mine. And the hell with you. I got to get mine. And it doesn't really matter whether you win, lose, or draw. I got to get mine. And if I can benefit you in some small way while I'm on my journey to success and personal ease and comfort, okay. But if it means I got to betray you in order to accomplish that goal, I have no problem doing that. Tyranny knows no honor, and it knows no integrity. And these people are bathed in tyranny. This is simply a falling out between traitors. Nancy spills the beans on Boehner because she sees that she can get some traction out of that. You see, and make no mistake, if you don't think that this was a calculated release, you're making a serious mistake. She thinks she can get some traction, make some headway by spilling their little secret. And she has no qualms about using any weapon at her disposal. This woman is a black widow. Boehner, to be honest with you, is just a low-intelligence traitor who's sitting there willing to do whatever it takes to continue in his position, the one he's unwilling to give up. You see, the real issue, folks, is that the United States of America is now living as a police state. I'm going to just say what everybody else won't say. And the people who are in authority here, they're the real extremists. You know, I talked to you the other day, and I broke this out on this capitalcityproject.com website, where the lawmakers who oversee the government surveillance programs out here receive millions of dollars from the intelligence companies that they're supposed to be watchdogging. You see, the truth is that these people are, the corruption in them is so deep that you cannot, at this stage in the game, expect them to turn things around. Now, I'm going to tell you why Ted Cruz is the third most influential person in America. The real truth is that he's influential because Americans have seen in him that which they expected from all of our representatives all along. The media will be out there and tell you that, and they'll constantly marginalize the constitutional conservatives out there. They're extremists. They're bomb throwers. They're terrorists. You heard that kind of talk coming out of the Democrats during the budget and the debt deals and all of these other treasonous, malfeasant betrayals. Well, let me just tell you something. You see, the constitutional conservatives in the United States are not a ragtag bunch of extremists. We're not actually a minority. They want you to be convinced that you are, because if they can convince you that you are alone, you will collapse in cowering fear and despair. They'll do anything to keep you from knowing the truth of the power that you wield. The real truth is, the Ministry of Propaganda has allowed and lets America believe that this is a small minority group. The true minority group, I have to tell you, are those progressives out there who are about 10 or 11%. The rest of America, and there's certainly that group in the middle that doesn't really care one way or the other because they're so ridiculously infatuated with whatever it is that they're doing that they're not paying attention to the situation around them. They have zero situational awareness. But I got to tell you, the rest of America, the 60, the 70% of the nation who is paying at least moderate attention, they are the true majority. But you see, we're fractured, and they want to keep it that way. The Ministry of Propaganda will never let America know that there is a resurgence going on in this nation of patriotic thought and constitutional conservatism. Self-reliance, self-governance, self-preservation as a nation. That's the truth. That's what's really happening. Americans are coming awake literally by the millions. They tell you the youth is all for Obama. But the truth of the matter is, every once in a while, a little bit of the truth leaks through. I saw an interview the other day with a guy who was out there getting youth to opt out of the Obamacare mandate. He's been extraordinarily successful. Obama even actually addressed that issue in a speech. He said, with incredulity, he said, "Can you believe that there's people out there actually encouraging youth not to sign up?" No, what they're doing, Mr. President, is they are encouraging people not to fall under the thumb of dependency and tyranny. They're encouraging people not to submit their personal information so that you can build dossiers on who is and is not an enemy of the state. The truth is, there's a resurgence of patriots in this nation who seek to return the Constitution to its rightful place as the guidebook for our political and our national life. And we are in a fight and in a battle for our very lives. Anyone who tells you different has an axe to grind, and they've got a dog in the hunt, and it ain't in your benefit. That's the truth. The true number of Americans who seek a return to these constitutional principles would stagger the minds of most Americans if they truly understood. They don't dare allow you to hope and or feel like you're in sync with the vast majority of the nation. They want you marginalized. They want you fearful. They want you cowering. They want you believing that you are alone in your despair. And it's all a lie. Ask your friends. Ask the people that you work with. Go around and do an informal poll. Be creative about it. And go out there and say to those folks, what do you think of of the way in which our government is dealing with us as Americans right now? Are they being honest? Do they really have our best interest at heart? And I bet you'd be surprised at the response. Even people who are progressively on the liberal side of things will say, well, no, not really. But, we have to get through this stuff in order to hit the utopia. They can explain it away that way. The people in Germany did the same thing. They said, well, look, we got to, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Really? Well, when that egg happens to be you and your family, not so much. They want you to feel utterly and totally powerless. Meanwhile, the country is amuck. There was a statement out the other day by Krauthammer, and he's a syndicated columnist, and he is pretty he's pretty well received, and he's well respected on both sides of the aisle politically, ideologically. Right? I don't mean politically when I say Democrat and Republican. I mean ideologically. And he came out and made a statement the other day about these new Obamacare rules where the president is just, willy-nilly throwing out rules and regulations. And Sebelius the other day came out and actually told the software developer that they are not entitled, they are not allowed, and they are barred and prohibited by a non-disclosure portion of their contract from giving Congress information in their oversight hearings. And she's actually refused to produce the documentation. In fact, Daralisa the other day made a statement that she is under threat for criminal obstruction of justice. And here's what Krauthammer said. This is exactly a reaction to a deep understanding among Democrats that Obamacare is a train wreck. And it's a panic reaction. I'm going to finish this quote, but prior to that, Judge Napolitano had made a quote. He said, as the judge said, this is utterly lawless. This now approaches banana republic lawlessness. The only difference is that here, when you get presidential decrees, it's done on a conference call instead of from the balcony of the presidential mansion. That's the only difference. You see, the truth of the matter is, folks, it's becoming apparent to everyone. I said when Obama won in 2012 that it wouldn't be long before the mask would come off and America would see the true face of evil. And I'm telling you right now that you're beginning to start seeing that now as we move forward. The face of evil is exposing itself. It's not like the veil is ripped away. It's like the veil is slowly either dissolving or inching off, and you can start to see the features, the hideous fear, and the evil that resides underneath. I'm telling you that we are in the throes of a battle for our very nation. I'm telling you that you are in the throes of a battle for your very life. I'm telling you that you are a soldier in the war that will protect and determine whether your family lives or dies in slavery and utter devastation. Some people say, that's way too harsh. Okay, you can say that. But at some point in time, and it's not going to be long from now, one of us is going to be right. And I'll bet money it's me. You know why? Because the truth is there for everyone and anyone to see. And those who aren't willing to look, well, that's on them. But the truth is, it's here for you to see. I posted a video up on our YouTube channel over the weekend, and it's a series of vignettes, little snippets taken from these people in Congress who consistently and routinely lie to us. And even some of their own words give you an inkling of what's to come. But if you're not listening, and if you're only listening to them as an isolated statement, you can't really kind of in your mind get your arms around the enormity of this. Because it's such a vast sea change difference from what you've always known and what you've always believed. You've been indoctrinated to believe that America is operating in a lawful and meaningful fashion with your best interests at heart. That could not be further from the truth. And the pace, the acceleration with which this destruction is moving forward, it's frightening. It is very scary indeed. We are shortly and rapidly running out of time. The question is, will you arise and stand against what's going on here? Will you take action? And I do mean action. No, I don't want you to grab a rifle and go out and find the first guy that you think looks like a traitor and take him out. That would be foolish. And it would be descending to their level. There are a few manners and a few methodologies of peaceful resolution to this. One is Convention of the States. I get it. It's fraught with a lot of fear. It's fraught with some concerns. It's fraught with issues that could turn against us. The second manner, and we'll talk further about, constitutional changes when we talk further about Convention of States. I'm going to try to work on that this week so I can give you a broad overview and maybe dig down a little bit into what the implications are for this, a pro and a con list, if you will. But make no mistake, this is no excuse for you not to do your own homework. You have to. Remember, the rule here is never accept what I say to be factual or accurate. These are my opinions. Your opinion is what's going to matter. And you can only formulate that opinion when you actually have the intellectual capacity to recognize and use the critical thinking skills to develop what's on both sides of the coin and form your own opinion based upon all of the available information to you. You gather enough information, you make an informed opinion. And then you're open-minded enough and critical thinking enough to recognize that situations may come to fore that will change your ideas and opinions. But you never adopt anyone else's, mine included. All right, you've been listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to tackle the GOP and how that phrase now is looking like it ought to spell betrayal. Almost everything that party's doing now is against the best interest of the nation. We'll be right back.